Welcome to Decker Tech. Today we're doing Zek, the Ratman. You guys have been really great helping support me in encouraging me to do these videos. I would like to take my time to do these as best as I can, but there are so many videos. We're just going to try to hit as many as I can here in the next couple of days. Zek, I've taken enough time to play through with him on low madness. In this run, I got some data for madness 12. Like I said, just enough to play around and get a feel for Zek. I will make as many of these videos as I can. If you want to support and encourage this from happening, please continue to make sure your friends are subscribed. Like I said, YouTube does not pay until there are 1,000 subscribers, so that's kind of a big deal on whether or not I can continue to make these. And I'll do my best in the meantime. And the comments and what are the words? Compliments really go a long way as well. Anyway, back to Zek. Zek, I'm going to say this like 9 times in the video, so I'm going to get it out now. The Ratman. If you know that movie quote, please comment, because it is one of my favorite movies. Anyway, Zek is all about dark. There aren't really many ways you can build him. You look at these talents here. This one says dark to all enemies. This one says dark to highest HP monster. It says some stuff about frost, but we'll get into why that's not really a thing later. This one, both of these play out pretty much the same. You cast a card, you get some dark. This one has more requirements. This one says, oh, by the way, if you have dark on yourself, things cost less. This one says, hey, you deal more dark. Hey, things do dark. You getting the theme here? So left side is curses, right side is frost. To be honest, the frost ones, very little synergy. This one like actively lowers your damage. Death's Embrace turns all your dark damage to frost, but your dark tree says dark resistances are lowered. Like, very edge case for this. My suggestion is going to be we're just going to go straight down this left side. Everything about dark charges and lowering the resistances of our enemy. So we'll get back to these talents here in a second. Let's look at the starting deck. The way I'm going to set up this video. I've got 3 saves here from the same game, where I've taken Zek all the way to Act 4 and kind of gone through the deck lists here. In the starting town, I didn't spend all the resources I had on this team. I am on low madness, in my opinion, but this should be a good starting point for, you might have more shards, because right now the state of the game and perks and being able to, like, there are so many different versions of starting towns and decks because of how many gems and gold you have accessible to yourself, like treasure chests, selling supplies, high madness, low madness, perks. So I'm gonna go with the middle ground of, hey, here's a deck, let's talk about it. If you can afford it, great. If you can't, we'll help you figure that out. So here's the deck I ended up with. Let's go to the other view and we can talk about how to make it. So as we said, dark. Dark is the name of the game. And we're also going down the left side, which is curses. So we want curses that apply dark. I think he starts with 3 exhaustions and 2 shadows, right? He also starts with a bunch of shadow bolts. Well, let me tell you, those shadow bolts, not very good. We're looking for, as a dark caster, the dark explosions here, if you read the fine print here, once you get to 25, it explodes, and every dark charge does 2 damage. You can also get perks that make it so those darks do 2.5 damage. So every dark is worth 2 damage, so we actually want a high dark to energy ratio, not a high shadow damage to energy ratio. So we're not really looking at the first part of this, the deal 12. Like, deal 12s, that's cool, that's fine, that's great. But really we're looking at this apply 7 dark, because as the game goes on, Zek's eventually going to get +4 dark just from his talents. And then if you get any items, that's going to be another, 2 or 4 dark on his charges, and he's going to be doing, this is going to be like 12 dark for 2 energy. Yeah, kind of a big deal. It's not even going to be 2 energy by the time we're done with this. So, long story short, if it doesn't have dark on it, we probably don't want it. I like keeping the dark rituals early on because they are fairly playable, especially if you're going to go the dark team. You're going to want to bring Maluka along so that they can both play off each other. Maluka gets a lot stronger as a shadow DPS when Zek's on the team, because Zek lowers the resistances of the enemies. And as anyone that's played dark enough knows, the more dark you have, the the quicker you can explode the dark charges, the better your run's going to be. So pairing these two together is very nice. And since Maluka early on has energy problems trying to cast her Unholy Storm, Dark Ritual is very good to just pass that energy along to her. Once your team is more energy efficient, I'd recommend cutting these. But early on, it's a great card. These, I had lots of extra gold to upgrade them, so I didn't hurt myself as much. Not as needed. You can just do the base one. It's still a 1 for 2. So this is fine. I just don't want Zek to hurt himself too much, okay? He can blow himself up sometimes if you're not paying attention. Which makes me laugh every time, and sometimes I have to reset the fight. Because he applies dark to himself, and dark explosion on yourself can go boom. Sorry, I'm having too much fun talking about this. We haven't even talked about the curses yet. So in the starting deck, we cut the Shadow Bolts. We cut something else that's expensive. Like, his average energy cost was like over 2. This is ridiculous. We want 1 or less. Like, in the starting town, preferably 0.8. So his deck is drastically over top heavy. So we got to bring the cost down. Adding these Malicious Eyes, they're not a curse, but they are a 0 cost spell that applies dark. I have these switched to the wrong side. Well, no, I don't. I have them switched to the right side. Sorry, I'm thinking of another spell. We're applying dark to ourselves. That's okay. But the more important thing is it's a 0 cost that does dark charges. Like, a 0 cost. That's what we need. Zek needs more 0 costs. Where are we at? Brought in these Pestilences. I actually don't like them. I'll cut them very quickly just because they're not a curse, and eventually we're going to have enough curse synergies. But in the starting town, you don't have your talent cards yet, so you have a little more empty space in your deck. So these Pestilences are just a gap filler for now. More important thing is that we're looking for our Curse of Shadows and Malicious Eyes. And then upgrading these Curse of Exhaustions just made them a little more viable because they vanish and they purge the fast. I would say upgrading the slow perk for him would be nice to get too slow on these curses. But you're eventually going to cut these Curses of Exhaustion, or at least I would. So, it's if you got an extra perk you don't know what to do with, put it in slow for as long as you have these exhaustions. But for the most part, we're going to cut them as well. And it's really just going to be Curse of Shadows, our talent cards, and then some late game spells. These dark packs have a really good value of dark to energy. 1 energy for 5 dark and a lot of shadow damage. We do hurt ourselves. And like I said, you got to be careful hurting yourself with Zek. So you're looking for, as long as you're running these dark packs and these dark rituals, you want as much shadow resistance on Zek as possible. And you got to, you know, if you're playing multiplayer, you gotta beg and be nice to your healer and say, hey man, sorry I'm gonna hurt myself, but I'll give you some energy. That kind of thing. Make a deal with your healer. Say, hey, I give you energy, you give me heals, okay? Okay. Anyway, curses. Let's look at these. This curse says poison and bleed. What do we care about poison and bleed? Pass. Curse of Decay. This does have decay. It's a very fun effect. Oh wait, it costs 4 energy. Pass. Like, even the best costs 3. That's just way too much energy for a curse. Decay is a nice effect. If you really feel the need for Decay, this is probably one of the characters to get it on. But Decay is very overvalued in energy costs, in my opinion. So that's a pass here. Fragility. This is a 1 to 4 ratio, so I picked it up just as a filler. I left it here as a kind of a filler card to kind of talk about the fact that sometimes maybe your team's doing something else. Maybe you're not playing Zek in an all-shadow team, in which case some of these curses that do other things you might consider pulling in. Because if we just go to curses, let's just go to curse. Curses, there's Curse of Elements. That's pretty fun, but it doesn't do anything to our game plan, because yes, it's a shadow spell. Every curse is a shadow spell. Every curse does shadow damage. But we're really not a shadow caster. We're a dark caster. We care about dark. I've said it a million times, and I'm going to keep saying it, just like I did on the Maluka guide. We don't care about shadow. We care about dark. We do care about curses, but we care about dark. I would say if I'm going to put between the two, I'd rather play a dark card that's not a curse than a curse card that's not dark. I hope I didn't say that too fast and that makes sense. Like, I'd rather play Pestilence than Curse of Elements, because this has dark on it. So of this, there's really only one option when you're looking through these. and that's Curse of Shadows. Curse of Madness would be okay because we're running Neglect, except for the fact that you don't have... You're double dipping into a second damage type, and we'll talk about it some more here, but Zek doesn't like Bless. Zek doesn't like Powerful. So the normal strategies that say double damage types are powerful, are great, and, you know, overpowered, don't apply to Zek and Maluka because the Dark Explosions are not affected by your stats at all. All that the Dark Explosion cares about is the enemy's resistance and how many Dark stacks there are. Nothing else. Or, you know, if there's an enchantment on the enemy, something like that. It doesn't care about any of your stats. Doesn't care if you have Powerful. Doesn't care if you have, by the way, this is hilarious to me. It doesn't care if you have Vampirism. You're not doing more damage with Dark Explosions with Vampirism because Dark Explosions doesn't check your character at all. It doesn't say, oh, who applied the last thing? Do they do 30% more damage? No, it doesn't do that. So, I would say Vampirism is nigh unplayable. Same thing with just these Frost cards for that reason. This Soul Harvest is actually very playable if you're not going to go Curses, just because it's, you know, on the next 3 spells you draw a card. Like, that's really cool to go through your deck and churn through your deck fast. And it does say Dark to the highest monster, but if you can manage to play Curses, this one's just so much stronger because it says Dark to all monsters. And it's also giving you an energy rebate. And Zek, as you'll find out, cares more about energy than he does cards because his deck is so energy heavy. And it really relies on that Curse-mancy talent. We're getting way off track, but we're covering a lot of ground. We're covering a lot of ground here. So we want Dark, we want Curses. The only option is Curse of Shadows. And late game, I'll show you in one of the later towns, there's a pink card, or there's a higher level card that is viable. I also like this Curse of Vulnerability, either early on for when your warrior can't... I don't know why I don't have it here in the deck list. Oh, because it costs 3 energy. I eventually got a corrupted one, which was nice. But ideally, your warrior should be applying the vulnerable, and you shouldn't be the one relied on to do it. But it is nice that if for one reason the warrior didn't draw the vulnerable, or it got dispelled by the enemy, or something like that, it's nice to sometimes have this Curse of Vulnerability to be like, bam, let's put that vulnerable back on. Because, as I said, the Dark Explosions are affected by vulnerable. Yeah. So where are we at? Malicious Eyes, fantastic. Craft them, Atom. Black Death, that's your starting card. I kept it the whole game. Curse of Exhaustions, I cut them town 2 if I could. Basically, they're about middle of the chopping block. Curse of Fragility, pretty high on the chopping block. I was just screwing around with it. Dark Packs, I kept these fairly long just because they're a good ratio. Eventually you'll cut them just because you'll start leaning into the Curses side better, and you'll start getting Scrolls of Intellect and just valuable cards like that. So eventually, like, as your deck gets stronger, you start playing less cards, and these will just eventually get cut. So low on the cutting list. Dark Rituals, medium on the cutting list, really depends on who you're playing with. Because of Maluka, I kept them a lot longer than I normally would. Normally I'd say Act 2, Act 3, cut these in favor of better cards. Curse of Shadows sticks with you the rest of the game. I ended up with 2 or 3 of them by the end of the game. I think I added up to 3, and then I got a Cursed Mnemonicon, and I cut down to 2. Drain Life, I'd cut it sooner rather than later because it has no dark on it. Yes, it's nice to keep around for... Basically, I'd keep it as long as you're keeping Dark Packs and Dark Rituals, just to heal yourself back up. Or if you can play around hurting yourself, just get rid of it sooner, right? It's like a safety net for, oh, I've hurt myself too much. Let me heal back up. I don't know why he's British, or whatever accent that was. And then Pestilences, they're just a nice dark card until you have better cards. So a lot of these are placeholders until we get better stuff. Curse of Shadows is really the only... Curse of Shadows and Malicious Eyes are the only things that really stay in the deck outside of our talent card here. Items. Let's talk about items. So, guess what keyword I'm going to type in right here? 4-letter word. It's the D word. Dark. Oh, look at all these weapons that say dark. Yep. Every single one of those looks fantastic. Yes, please. Armor. No. Blackguard, maybe, but we'll talk about that later. You don't want to be immune to dark. You want dark on yourself, and none of this does anything. So, dark weapons, yes. Dark rings? Yes, please. Bone ring, yes. Eerie ring? Yeah, that's pretty good. Maybe someone else will pick it up instead of you, but having it on the team would be nice. Dark Flame Ring, yeah. Vile Ring, yeah. Care Ring, not so much. But anything that turns dark into something else, you're going to be applying so much dark that they'll be good for you. Again, we do not want to be immune to dark. And dark turning into something else is good. So any of these dark to something else are fantastic for us. Dark to poison, dark to sanctify, dark to fire. I like dark to fire a lot. And then just any of these shadow weapons. It's really just these weapons you're looking for. The Cup of Death can be in the starting town. Same thing with the Shadow Orb. So if you're someone that likes to find a seed with the item and then just replay that seed over again, just roll until you find a seed that has Cup of Death or Shadow Orb, and then that'll be a good starting game for any Zek game that you play. Where am I at here? We are going on to the next town. So here, I am now in Act 2. I don't remember what this looks like. Let's see. Let's go on the other interface. I apologize here. So, we were able to afford a mana gem. We got a mana gem because we are so curse heavy. Curse of Shadows and Curse of Vulnerability. The fact that I have three corrupted cards should be a warning sign to you. That's a lot of corrupted cards, and they're all the nice cards that I have. It's because Zek here, when you go to one of the altars on the map, I'm not 100% sure. Whatever. We'll look at the map in a second. If you go to any of the altars, he can corrupt them. And a corrupted altar, instead of upgrading cards, you can risk destroying a card to also maybe get a chance of a corrupted version. So that's why he has so many corrupted cards. Like my whole team has, I've got a corrupted Unholy Storm because of him. Like it's pretty nice. You got to spend shards to do it. So make sure that if you're planning on hitting up an altar, you store up some shards on your trip out of base, because you're going to have to pay to get all these corruptions going. But as you can see, I've doubled down on Curse of Shadows. I got another one. I upgraded it. I'm still keeping the Dark Rituals only because I have Maluka. I've bought one of these, and I found another one and upgraded it. The reason we want this version of Scroll of Intellect is because Maluka, in this case, doesn't need the cards. And Zek, I'm really digging to find this card right here, Cursemancy. The next 3 curses deal 6 dark. Like, that's... The baseline is what, 3? 6 dark to all monsters, and cost reduce. And this thing costs 0. This says gain 3 energy, deal 18 dark to all monsters. That is fantastic. So we want our deck to be as thin and fast as possible so that we can try to guarantee this turn 1 and at the very least turn 2. But ideally we want to find a turn 1. So that's why these Scrolls of Intellect, we have the self-draw version instead of the pass-along. We're not a battery. We are here to help ourselves in the card department, and normally I'll cast the Scroll of Intellect on Maluka or someone else because Energize is better used sooner than later. But you could just cast it on yourself and it's just a cantrip card. So these are just space fillers. Mana Gem because we're so energy dependent. We're still keeping the Malicious Eyes. I corrupted one so that it chains because that's a lot of fun. And we got this. Zek does have an event in the hatch, but unfortunately I really don't like this buff because this says too powerful, and if you recall me saying earlier, dark does not get affected by powerful, so we don't care about the powerful on this. We just care that it's a boon, and boons just draw through your deck. The 1 energy is nice for free, and it's a card draw, and it replaces itself so it doesn't hurt our deck. It just basically says have 1 energy, which we're happy with. So we gave ourselves some more energy. Our deck churns through itself a little faster. We trimmed out a lot of the empty fat. I'm still holding 1 Pestilence, but let's see if it's here now. Curse, Dark. Yeah, it looks like it's here. So other curses we have. Curse of Weakness. I don't like it because it's a lot of energy for very few dark. It's really here for the weak effect, which can be nice and very situational. Like if this came up on a Divination, I'll probably pick it up and use it. I'm not going to say no to it, but I'm not going to craft it. But this is the big powerhouse card that I don't have in the deck here because I couldn't afford it. And eventually I'll find it or craft it by Act 4. I don't necessarily need it now. Deep Darkness. Early on, if you notice here, this says Monster, Monster, All Monsters. So the All Monsters version is really, really good. Don't get me wrong. for the final boss, I recommend switching to the single target monster because it's just costs less energy and it doesn't vanish. This is two of these versions vanish. So for the final boss, Archon, I would recommend switching to the blue Deep Darkness before that fight. But up until then, this is a really fun card to play with. It takes some strategizing to make sure, because, you know, the problem with Dark is if you get Dark too high, it'll explode and go back down to 0. So you want to try to get all the enemies at about 20-something Dark, and then pop this and give them all, you know, this says 4 energy, add, what, 80 Dark? Yeah, that's a very powerful effect, y'all. That's really good. And it happens to be a curse spell. So it's in our wheelhouse. I guess one other thing to talk about the non-vanish version, why it's a really good thing to consider, is that Cursemancy reduce the cost of the highest cost curse spell in hand by 1. Not until end of turn, not until cast, not until discarded, permanently. So, and it does the highest cost one. So the problem you'll run into is if you're doing long fights, Deep Darkness will suck up a lot of that cost reduction, and then you'll vanish it, and it won't be back in your deck again. So the nice thing about this one, even though it doesn't hit all monsters, is it stays in your deck, and it'll keep that cost reduction, so you can get it down to, you know, 1 or 2. Well, maybe 0 if you're really good at... If you've played through a couple... You really want to get 1 or 2 reduction on it. But what I'm getting at is... Yes, it's a downside to having it in the deck, but it's so powerful for all monsters that try it out first as all monsters, and then if you're catching it a lot with the Cursemancy, maybe try switching it to blue. But, yeah. I think this is the only other card we're going to add by Act 4. We can look at talents for a second, look at some of his equipment. His equipment, I don't think I ever ended up with anything on him that was good, because he doesn't really need it. I played around with this for a bit just to help Neglect, because Maluka is going to get the first dark item just because of my turn order here. I have them in turn order here, Zek and then Neglect and Maluka, because these two heal and I want Maluka to go last. Spider is good because it has shadow resist when you're hurting yourself. There is no pet that adds dark charges or deals dark curses, so this is really the best option, or one that doesn't do an attack, so you don't accidentally trigger an enemy enchantment on High Madness. Yeah, let's go to the next town. But as I said, let's go take a look at this. It's right here, this Altar of Storms. You can corrupt this. I corrupted this one. I corrupted the one in Act 1. You can't corrupt the wooden one in the blue biome. And I haven't tried the green one. I'm pretty sure you should be able to corrupt the green one. Anyway, and let's go to the very last one, and then we'll look at his perks. Hopefully you're enjoying the format of this video. This is way different than the ones I did in the early access. And that's because of a lot of changes they've made, and just the player base has changed a lot. So let me know, please let me know what you like about this format and what you don't like, so that, because I've got 15 more of these to do. So you let me know what you like now, otherwise it's not going to change. Alright, I keep going to the wrong interface here. Hey look, I found more Scrolls of Intellect. Turns out, good cards are good. Spoiler, these might get nerfed because of me making too... If I start making too many videos of this, a certain Rin... Oh my goodness. Anyway, get them while they're good. These are just like Meditates or Enrages. Just never turn them down. If you get a Scroll of Intellect, just get it and turn it yellow. Like, there is no downside to this card. You win with it. It's great. Like, if I'm a strong believer in 15 cards, but if you gave me 10 more Scrolls of Intellect, I would say, okay, I'll play 10 more Scrolls of Intellect. Like, I will do that. That is okay. I got upgraded the Mana Gem because I did a Corruptor that gave me a free upgrade. So that's a good place to drop that. I got the Cursed Mnemonicon from a reward for killing the boss, the Act 3 boss. So I got that, and I turned it because I had oodles and boodles of shards on this difficulty. I turned it blue because it costs less. And 3 curses, odds are only 1 or 2 of them are corrupted and will vanish. So this gives me 1 or 2 non-vanish cards to my deck. This yellow one adds more curses, but the more, like, the number of non-vanishing cards I have, I only wanted 1 or 2. I could go either way on this Curse Demonicon. It's really not a big deal. They're just more curses. It's just how consistent you want your deck to be. I don't like to be surprised by what I draw, so I like to keep my deck very lean, mean, fighting machine. Infestation is a talent card. This one will help you churn through your deck oh so fast. Don't be surprised if you're hitting fatigue on your draw deck a couple times once you start running this. But as you can tell, all my cards are curses or 0 cost. I've got these 3 that aren't curses, all these that are just cantrips. I got a talent card, which also happens to be a curse spell, and I just upgraded to Deep Darkness. If you don't have this many Scrolls of Intellect, I would fill in with just some Curse of Shadows. That's probably the thing. Curse of Shadows and Malicious Eyes, if you can find more of them. Yeah, we've talked about all the cards. Let's go to talents. Talents! Alright, this was me screwing around. You don't need this much gold. This just says that I have lots of extra to spare. So, the only thing that really matters for Zek is this right here. This is me just helping out the talent of the team. Like, this is just a team perk. This has nothing to do with Zek. Dark all the way down, and Dark Charges. This one is nice. Someone on your team needs it, in my opinion. Dark Explosions deal 25% more damage. So instead of doing 2 per charge, it's 2.5 per charge. The tooltip in the game will round up and tell you 3 per charge after you get this. Don't be deceived. It's only 2.5. You can check the math on it. It's unfortunate that the way the game handles rounding sometimes. So both Maluka and Zek have the plus charges, and I just had... Who did I have do this? Nezglect? Nezglect went down to the Dark Tree just to get this talent for the team. It's worth 7 perks, in my opinion. And this is all you need for this guy. Of course, the Inspire option's nice. Just 1 extra card on the early game. I'd actually recommend going deeper in these energy trees. I don't know, like... I would cut out some of this gold and just go down the energy. I was screwing around. Yep. Wow, there really wasn't much to talk about here. Oh, I remember what I want to talk about. Powerful. Normally, you'd see me tout the mess out of Powerful. But Dark Explosions are not affected by Powerful. Your shadow damage, direct shadow damage is affected, but in my opinion, that's not enough percentage of your damage overall to really care about buffing it. I think a majority of your damage will be the Dark Explosions, and a pretty hefty majority. Your team should be getting the 12 stacks of Vulnerable, and they decay slower, so that your Shadow Bursts do more damage. The goal is to get your enemies at negative 95% Shadow Resistance, which is fairly hard to do unless you have the Dark one. So let's talk about the Dark one. Oh, wrong button. I know how to press buttons here. Items. So the Dark one. Charges on monsters, explode at 34 instead of 25. So this means you can get up to about 30 and then double it with that spell that doubles the Dark Charge. It gets up to 60, and then every one of those charges is reducing their resistances by 3% when Zek is max level. Let me slow down. So you're actually getting to that max shadow resistance reduction, and you'll notice a big increase in damage once that happens. So one of the finesse things with a shadow caster, or a dark caster, not shadow, that's what they're not, they're dark casters, is you want to try to get the explosion as high as possible, and that's kind of hard to do because it's going to explode at 25 or higher. So you'd manage that by, if you have 2 spells and one will pop it but one will get it to like 24, take it to 24 and then do the next spell and pop it at a higher amount. You'll get more mileage out of the explosion because their resistances will be lower, especially with Zek, and that's definitely a big deal with Zek because of this right here. Blah blah blah. Shadow resistances by an additional 1% per charge, and he gets that twice. So instead of Dark reducing it by 1%, it's going to be 3%, and you will see a noticeable increase in your explosion damage once you have Absolute Darkness or Putrefaction. I know how to speak. Alright, that was me doing a lot of babbling. This video was a little longer than I intended, but I think we covered everything. I'm going to take just a moment to look through here. We talked about starting stuff. His items are very straightforward. His cards are, like, there's very few cards that are good. You just want generically good cards like Scroll of Intellect. You want energy increases for yourself, mana gem. You don't want all this battery stuff that it's no good. Like, the only good battery stuff these days is mana gem. We only kept Dark Ritual because it was in our starting deck. I wouldn't craft it anymore. Equivalent Exchange is only good on Wilbur at level 5. Evocation is only good on Evelyn when she has Arcane Conduit. Mana Surge is ugh. By the way, that was bad. Ugh. Same thing with Replenishment. Those are both just very slow, dirtily, non-effective cards because you're going to waste some energy somewhere, and it's just not good value. And then Transmissions, I would never craft a Transmission. I want to keep Benevolent for the first couple rounds, the same reason we keep Dark Rituals around, just because it's in our starting deck and we haven't gotten rid of it yet. So, yeah. Generically good cards, Curse of Shadows, Deep Darkness, talent cards, win. I think we're going to do his talent screen, and I will be done. I feel like that's everything. I'm going to sit here and talk to myself for about another 10 more seconds. Like I said, YouTube doesn't pay me for this. I'm trying my best to do as many of these videos as I can. It would help a lot if I could get to 1,000 subscribers. That would make these videos a lot easier and more accessible to make happen. But honestly, you guys did really great. I asked for compliments and feedback and you know, a little bit of praise to keep my momentum going, and I got a lot of that. And if you can keep that going, I think I can keep dishing out these videos. I hope this helps. Next one will be, I think, Sylvie. I was hoping to knock out 2 this evening, but something came up. I will try my best to get Sylvie out by tomorrow, and I'll catch you later. Peace.